Welcome to NewsRap Local. I'm your host, Justin Chapman. Thanks for being here. Happy holidays. Rocking my ugly Christmas sweater. After providing a few brief updates on this month's local stories, we'll speak with our guest, Sheri Bonner, President and CEO of Planned Parenthood Pasadena and San Gabriel Valley. But before we get started, let's check out these Pasadena media news briefs.
Pasadena has seen a significant increase in COVID-19 levels throughout the community. With the city already in a high transmission tier, the city's public health and medical experts are urging people to take precautions as the holiday season begins, citing increasing cases of influenza, RSV, and emerging COVID-19 variants. Pasadena Public Health Division Manager Dr. Matthew Feaster said regional increases of COVID-19 transmission are worrisome, since emergent variants and holiday-related social gatherings create the perfect mix to bring large-scale COVID-19 surges. Pasadena's Public Health Department has not yet seen the new COVID variants, known as BQ1 and BQ1.1. Both are offshoots of the BA5 variant, blamed for the increase in infection rates earlier this year. Feaster added that the department is already seeing increases in case rates that could potentially bring surges in the coming winter months. The Los Angeles County Commission on Human Relations will release its 2021 Los Angeles County Hate Crime Report on Wednesday, December 7th. The report provides analysis of hate crime data for LA County, including information based on race or ethnicity, national origin, sexual orientation, religion, gender, and disability. The data was collected from more than 100 law enforcement agencies, school districts, and community-based organizations throughout the county. The report includes data on hate crimes in which COVID-19 was mentioned, rising numbers of anti-immigrant slurs, disproportionate victimization of African Americans, high rates of violence against the LGBTQ community, continued victimization of the Jewish community, and hate crimes committed by gang members. The report also documents which regions of the county experienced the highest rates of hate crimes. Featured speakers will include LA County Board Supervisor Holly Mitchell, LA County District Attorney George Gascon, and Los Angeles Police Chief Michael Moore. A panel discussion will address efforts to end hate crimes in the county, including the LA versus Hate initiative. For more information, go to lavshate.org. The Pasadena Public Library announced patrons will now be able to access online lessons, digital information guides for antiques and collectibles, and interactive legal documents through the Libby app with an active Pasadena Library card. Libby is a virtual ebook, audiobook, and digital magazine platform that allows users to check out materials and read them using a web browser or mobile device. Tim McDonald, Acting Director of Libraries and Information Services in Pasadena, said 3 new services, Artistic Works, Covell's, and Law Depots, are now available to all Pasadena Public Library users through Libby. Any library user can download the Libby app from the Apple App Store or from Google Play. For more information, go to pasadenapubliclibrary.net.
Let's turn next to our lightning round of news updates. 1. Pasadena City Manager Miguel Marquez has chosen San Gabriel Police Chief Eugene Harris to lead the Pasadena Police Department starting January 3rd. Harris, a former U.S. Marine, has spent 31 years in law enforcement. He started his career with the LA County Sheriff's Department before moving to police departments in Monterey Park and San Gabriel. He currently serves as president of the LA County Police Chiefs Association. 2. It's a new city council term. Councilmember Andy Wilson has left the council, and new council members Jason Lyon and Jess Rivas, serving her first full elected term, were sworn in. District 3 Councilmember Justin Jones, who was appointed in September to fill the remainder of the late John Kennedy's term, has now completed that appointment, and the seat is once again vacant. The council now has to make a new appointment for the new term Kennedy won earlier this year. Jones and former District 3 candidate Brandon Lamar have qualified for consideration. The council is meeting to make that decision as we film this episode, but before we go to air, so see on your screens right now for the results of that decision. District 3 voters will next get to weigh in on their representative in the 2024 election for a 2-year term and then again in 2026 to get back on a regular schedule. This vacancy in the recent vice mayoral election, in which Felicia Williams will serve as vice mayor through late next year and Steve Madison will serve the following year, has sparked renewed discussions about charter reform, which City Clerk Mark Jomsky said a task force of community members will look at early next year. 3. This week, the UC Board of Regents agreed to allow UCLA football to move from the Pac-12 conference to the Big Ten starting in 2024. UCLA will be required to contribute $2 to $10 million to UC Berkeley to cover losses for the move, which took the Tournament of Roses Association by surprise. It could lead to more revenue for the city of Pasadena and the Rose Bowl Stadium, but starting in 2025, it could also mean that the Rose Bowl game is not played on the same day as the Rose Parade. After first demanding that the game remain on parade day, the tournament eventually agreed to go along with the schedule determined by the college football playoffs. The Rose Bowl will continue to be a part of the college football postseason, and the New Year's 6 bowl games will rotate between hosting quarterfinal and semifinal games. But it is unclear if the Rose Bowl game will be held during its traditional slot starting in 2025. Depending on where the Rose Bowl game falls in the rotation as a quarterfinal or a semifinal, it could be played December 31st or a week after New Year's Day, during the day or at night, whenever TV rights holders think will get the biggest ratings. An agreement between Pasadena and the tournament that says the game must be played in the Rose Bowl Stadium on January 1st or January 2nd if the first falls on a Sunday has not yet been amended. 4. Pasadena's Human Relations Commission recommended that the portrait of former Mayor Albert Stewart be removed from the walls of City Hall and to posthumously strip attorney Herbert Hahn of the Arthur Noble Award bestowed to him in 1974 for their role in leading the mid-20th century campaign for racist housing covenants to prevent people of color from owning property in the city. Their organization, the Pasadena Improvement Association, formed after local residents sued to desegregate a swimming pool. Commissioner Brandon Lamar said the association's formation resulted in one of the largest campaigns for racial segregation and discrimination in Pasadena's history. 5. The city is asking for volunteers for the 2023 Pasadena homeless count, which will be conducted from 8 to 10 p.m. on the night of January 24th and from 6 to 8 a.m. the morning of January 25th. The homeless count helps inform the state of homelessness in Pasadena, helps advocate for vital community resources, and engages directly with neighbors experiencing homelessness. The deadline to register is January 6th. Visit PasadenaPartnership.org for more information. In the last 3 years, homelessness in Pasadena has steadily decreased, according to the city's housing department. At the time of the 2022 homeless count, there were 512 unhoused Pasadenans, down from 904 in 2012. The city is working with local policy and planning consulting firm Citywise to update its plan to address homelessness in the coming years. 6. Rent control supporters held a press conference at City Hall recently and called on the city to immediately begin implementing Measure H, or the Pasadena Fair and Equitable Housing Charter Amendment, which was passed by 54% of Pasadena voters last night. The charter amendment goes into effect on December 22nd and will limit rent raises to 75% of the percentage increase in the Consumer Price Index for multifamily rental units built before February 1st, 1995. Will limit evictions to defined just causes only. And as of January 1st, rent will revert to the amount tenants were paying on May 17th, 2021, if they were living in their current unit then, or to the rent they were paying on the day they moved in after that date. City Manager Miguel Marquez said the city is preparing to implement Measure H, including establishing an 11-member rental housing board appointed by the City Council by April 21st. He said city staff will provide an update at a January council meeting. 7. Engine Vision Media, a company founded by local attorney Mark Garagos, has purchased Pasadena Magazine, Los Angeles Magazine, and Orange Coast Magazine. The company immediately took over operations and announced they'll retain all the existing staff, including the publisher and editors. Engine Vision said it plans to invest in more content, expand the slate of live events hosted by the magazines in their communities, and produce varied multimedia offerings. 8. City Manager Marquez appointed Sidney Jackson as General Manager of Pasadena Water and Power. Jackson will join the city's executive team early next month. He currently serves as the Chief Operations Officer and Deputy General Manager at Austin Energy, which serves more than 500,000 electric customers. And he previously served as the Chief Operations Officer at Rochester Public Utility. And 9. The Pasadena City Hall courtyard has been dedicated to former Mayor Bill Bogard and his wife Claire for their exemplary leadership and public service to the residents of Pasadena and their commitment to the historic preservation of the city. A bronze plaque was installed in the courtyard to commemorate the occasion. Let's patch in our guest, Sheri Bonner. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Sheri has served as president and CEO of Planned Parenthood Pasadena and San Gabriel Valley since 2004. Under her leadership, Planned Parenthood Pasadena has grown from a single health center in Pasadena into a robust organization with 4 health centers across the San Gabriel Valley that see 55,000 visits annually. Prior to this position, she was the chief administrative officer at the Planned Parenthood of the Pacific Southwest, which represents San Diego and Riverside counties. Recently, Planned Parenthood Advocates Pasadena and San Gabriel Valley, an independent, nonpartisan advocacy and political organization, was formed under her leadership to protect access to women's health care and the mission and operations of Planned Parenthood Pasadena. So, Sheri, tell us about how the Pasadena San Gabriel Valley chapter of Planned Parenthood has grown since you got involved.
Yeah. While it certainly has been a wild ride, and I have loved almost every minute of it, we will be celebrating 90 years next year that we've been here. So a very well-established healthcare services nonprofit. When I started in 2004, we had one health center on Lake Avenue, people know it, and we had a small administrative team. Over the years, we have done assessments of our service area, which is mostly San Gabriel Valley. We also have Glendale and Highland Park. And doing those assessments, we discovered where the greatest needs were. And from there, we expanded into Alhambra, Baldwin Park, Highland Park, and Glendora. And of course, we've done many renovations in Pasadena. Our headquarters are up in the Altadena area. So we've been doing, providing a variety of healthcare services for a long time. We really center on sexual and reproductive healthcare for people. When you think about this, we're talking about birth control, sexually transmitted infections, treatment and prevention, cervical cancer screenings, mammograms, and more recently we started transgender care, which is hormone therapy, and as well as providing PrEP and PEP, which are both HIV virus prevention medications, and lots more. And in many of the communities that we serve, we are the only provider of abortion. So we're really proud of that.
Mm-hmm. And we now, of course, live in a post-Roe v. Wade era. Did you ever think it would come to that? And are you concerned that a nationwide ban could happen at some point in the future?
I think we have to be ready for that. And what we see is that elections really matter. And because that's how folks are appointed to the Supreme Court or any judgeship, there's elections for most of the judges in the US. And so, yeah, I think we need to be wary of that. We need to be planning for that. How I have felt about it, because I have actually been 33 years this month at Planned Parenthood, is that we have always had some kind of a committee or group in the National Planned Parenthood where we have been thinking about what it might be like if Roe were overturned. So, I certainly think when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, I think we all got really nervous about that. However, it's still just a punch in the gut to think about these basic human rights that people were no longer going to be going to have. So obviously I started that track with elections, and I think that's really the important thing, is that people understand and become civically engaged so that they understand the importance of voting and what it means to their everyday life.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, abortion obviously played a huge role in the midterm election nationally and in California. And
Yeah.
people thought it would be influential right after the Dobbs decision early in the year. But then in the summer and the fall, the consensus seemed to be, oh, enough time has passed and people aren't as outraged, or they'll vote on other issues like inflation or crime. That clearly didn't quite happen. Why do you think it was such a decisive factor?
Yeah, that I was watching that too, that when the Dobbs decision came down and people were, were rallying across the country, I thought, well, this is really going to play well in the midterms in favor of candidates who support access to abortion. And as we got closer and hearing that these weren't the things that people cared about, I was wondering a little bit, but what I knew was that these are fundamental rights. And we've not had rights like this taken away in more than 50 years. And in fact, abortion was the key factor in these midterm elections in terms of how people voted. And I think it's because they're so tied to our democratic values that we have that ability to make choices over sort of the very essence of our own personal rights, which is our body. Mm-hmm. So, overnight, abortion rights got rolled back in almost half the states in the country. When you think about it, more than a quarter of all women, the statistics that we have, has had an abortion. And if its numbers even higher when you think about folks who are non-binary or trans men, those other folks that have a uterus. And abortion could not be, abortion is extremely safe, much safer than almost any other procedure or treatment. Colonoscopies, it's just much safer. And I think what voters understood is that, as well as this being a rights issue, that abortion has an intersectional play with so many other things like poverty, ability to participate in the labor force, ability to attain education, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah, people seem to overlook that. It's also, they're saying, oh, they're going to vote on economic issues. Well, it is an economic issue.
It's an economic issue, exactly.
Yeah. And then in California, Prop 1 passed overwhelmingly, as expected, which added the right to abortion and contraceptive use to the state constitution. How does that change the dynamic locally? Is California now essentially a sanctuary state, welcoming patients from other states where abortion is banned or restricted? And is Pasadena Planned Parenthood experiencing that influx, or do you expect to?
Yeah, we are already experiencing a threefold increase in the number of patients who were coming from out of state. Mostly they're coming from Texas and Arizona. Prop 1 was intentional to enshrine access to abortion and contraception into our state constitution. So it would take a lot more for those rights to be taken away. I will say that almost 70% of the voters in California voted in favor of Prop 1. Sometimes it's a little harder to have a yes proposition than it is a no, because I think we're inclined to vote no. So we think that's even a bigger win. And it won, it beat all the other ballot measures. So we thought it was a really significant victory that we had. We're really lucky to live here in California. We're fortunate where we have support for abortion rights in all levels of government. And in fact, here in Pasadena, the city council passed a resolution supporting reproductive rights. Yes, so right, we have seen an influx of patients. When we think that we'll see more as we see more states that are going to ban abortion, because they're really not going to stop. And we feel fortunate that we are able to have appointments available for people, that we have some staff who it's their job to help people navigate their appointments, and particularly people who are coming from out of state, to make sure that they can get an appointment. And we are sort of, along with other states in the affiliates in the Planned Parenthood family, working together to ensure that we are doing our absolute best to maintain access to this service.
Mm-hmm. And of course, a man from Ontario, Richard Royden Chamberlain, recently agreed to plead guilty to firing BB guns at the Pasadena Planned Parenthood 11 times between June 2020 and May 2021, and admitted that he intentionally conducted the attacks to intimidate and interfere with the clinic and its doctors, staff, and patients, specifically because the clinic was providing reproductive health services. That case is obviously still ongoing. But how do you and your team feel about where it's ending up? And do you worry about future violence conducted against the clinic, doctors, staff, and patients?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a big worry for us. I mean, we've recently spent over $500,000 in state-of-the-art security upgrades so that we can keep all of our 5 health centers safe. We feel good, I guess, about the fact that the DOJ stepped in and he was found, and he agreed a guilty plea to a FACE Act violation, which has to do with protections for people coming into the health centers, as well as he had he was a felon with a gun. So, we think BB gun, and what we don't know is that they're high velocity BB guns, that it was only 11 times that we documented, or by the time we started noticing. I think at the end of the day, I'm really happy that no one was hurt and that our healthcare workers continue to show up to work every day, and our patients have not stopped coming into us. I will say that our staff were very, very upset and traumatized by this, not knowing if and when it was going to happen again. So it was a very, very difficult time. So when he was actually caught and charged and we had temporary injunctions against him, we could start to relax again. So, this is happening across the country, and we just have to be ever vigilant. We were able in the state of California to pass a couple of laws in this last year that helped with security. So, we're fortunate to be in California where our electeds understand that we have to be protected from this kind of harassment and violence, because it essentially interferes with a person's ability to safely access basic healthcare services.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely scary, and glad everyone was safe. What can people who believe in reproductive freedom do to support the Pasadena Planned Parenthood and women in our community? The Supreme Court stuff, the bans in other states, all that feels distant sometimes, and people don't know what they can do to impact any of that. What can people do locally to support you?
I think it's important to support your local Planned Parenthood because, for example, our Planned Parenthood, we are expending money to ensure that people from out of state can get their abortions. So we have a website. It's www.pppsgv, Planned Parenthood Pasadena San Gabriel Valley.org. I think following on social media, we have an Instagram account, which is at PPPSGV. Come out to our rallies or community events. Size matters when people see who is showing up for and spending their free time to attend something that they care about so much. And then you can volunteer with us as well. So people can come to Planned Parenthood for their very expert sexual and reproductive health care. This is what we focus on. This is what we've been doing for a long, long time. Confidentiality is at the core of who we are. Our visits are very low cost and often no cost. And so we don't ever want to turn someone away. So, support your local Planned Parenthood who is supporting these patients who have got to access care for themselves, what they're making the best decision for themselves.
Right. Well, Sheri, thank you so much for the work that you do, and thanks again for coming on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us about your work.
Absolutely. Anytime, Justin. Thank you so much.
Before we go, here is this month in Pasadena history. In 1927, that Pasadena City Hall first opened. December 27th, 1927, to be exact, 95 years ago, a week from this Tuesday. City Hall was designed by John Bakewell and Arthur Brown, who were influenced by the early Renaissance style of 16th century Italian architect Andrea Palladio. Bakewell and Brown also designed many other city halls, including Berkeley and San Francisco. Pasadena City Hall cost about $1.3 million in 1920s dollars, which is about $23 million today. It is 6 stories or 206 feet tall, has 235 rooms, and covers 170,000 square feet. The iconic building is the pride and joy of Pasadena, one of many. Thank you all so much for watching NewsRap Local this year. Stay tuned for a special update next month. I hope you have a relaxing, safe, and fun holiday season and a happy new year.